Welcome to this episode of FinServ Tech Oracles. I'm John Burke, here with my oracular colleague, Jerry Murphy, to share our thoughts on technology for financial services firms. And for this episode, Jerry, you wanted to discuss the recent announcement by Goldman Sachs on its release of AI LLM tools to its developers. What's going on there?
Well, basically, what they said is starting in the near future, they're actually going to deploy AI tool specifically to help their over thousands of code developers. They found from analysis that they think they can get about a 20% gain in efficiency for their people programming. It is, largely both based on GitHub, but it's also something they've very much developed themselves. It's significant in my mind because here's a large financial services company who's basically saying publicly, yes, we see the value of AI tools, and even though there's certainly risks involved with them, there's enough benefit to go for to use these things, uh, of course, with still maintaining whatever control they can to the risk element of using them.
Sure, and it's something we've heard from folks during the course of our interviewing on emerging technologies that they're very worried about their secret sauce in their coding and the intellectual property protection associated with keeping that code secret. So this makes sense to me that they're using, privately, internally developed version of the GitHub Copilot. So is it clear yet? Are they expecting security flaw-free code, or since there are still humans in the loop, are they planning on using a second AI pass to look for those kinds of problems and help coders fix them? That's one really big application of AI in coding that we're hearing about.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I didn't see in the article that I read where they were specifically saying I'm going to use AI to check for things, but they were very clear on 2 points in my mind. One is that they're very tightly controlling its use. So, and two, they're using different types of tools for different use case applications. So they're actually looking at using Llama as well. Um, and they're using, Google
Gemini,
tool,
yeah.
Gemini, right? So, but I think what they're seeing is each one of those has a particular use case that makes sense. So they're kind of using what in their mind is the best in class products for certain kinds of domains. They're also, from a control standpoint, everything is behind firewalls, everything is isolated. They're even within their own company, they're only limiting and letting specific employees use tools, and they make the point of if somebody's trying to make use of this tool, they're not authorized, they're just simply not going to have access because they recognize as tightly controlled as they are, they have to have a good handle on it. So it would certainly make sense if they were using those tools to help them look for flaws, but my assumption would be if they're going to do that, they're certainly going to maintain a very tightly controlled environment for it.
So where do you see this going and how quickly?
Well, I think the second part's going to be easier to answer. How quickly? I think they're going to do it very slowly. They're going to be very cautious about how they're incrementally releasing it. But I think it's going to be, they're going to test it in an environment and where they see it both useful, where they can actually measure gains. Because that's one of the challenges with AI. There's so much hype around it that, there's the hype of promise, but where's the proof of any efficiencies or gains? I think their methodology is going to be very metrics based. I think if they're going to say, if I can actually show and prove there's, I'm saving money, I'm saving time, I'm getting something concrete, I think those are environments where they're going to embrace it in a very controlled environment. So, to the extent they find the gains, I think they will release those things that are successful more broadly. But as far as how quickly they're going to do it, they're clearly, I think everybody's got this sort of the two swords of, if I don't embrace it, I might lose out on innovation what my competitors are doing. But if I do it too quickly, there's the risk of getting something happening that's going to cause me problems. So they're trying, I think, to balance that. And the main challenge I see with a lot of financial institutions are not every financial institution is going to have the resources of a Goldman Sachs, right? They can literally wall off a team of 1,000 people, and they can put whatever money they need to physically wall something off and control it. If you're a smaller financial institution where you're doing some niche environment with very specific types of investors, you may not have the resources to do that kind of isolation and control. So I think that's a challenge some financial institutions are going to have, is how much they're going to have to accept some risk. The question is, how much risk do I accept, and what kind of controls do I put in place to mitigate those risks?
So, uh, your top takeaway for the week is that AI for coding is provisionally a good thing, but if and only if it's used with appropriate controls and limitations. Fair enough?
I think that's good. And I think also it makes sense, especially for regulated entities, is make sure that I actually have some concrete benefit that justifies whatever cost I can put at it, because the boards are going to want to see both, how are you mitigating risks and what's the benefit of using it. It just, you're certainly not going to see any financial services doing it, uh using some new tool on a hunch that it's big and hot. I mean, I think there are some industries where that might work. Financial services is not one of those industries.
True enough. Okay, well, that's it for us until next week at 9 a.m. Eastern, right before the markets open on Tuesday. Thanks again for watching and listening.
Absolutely.